Hello and welcome to another video. So today we are taking a look at a Prime Portalcraft deck. So this one was a little awkward, honestly. I wanted to try and build a deck that was going to be focusing on the God Bullet Golem, Prime Artifact, and a couple of Crystal Cannons. I'm probably going to drop Crystal Cannon down to 1 actually to make this a little bit better. And I'm probably going to refine this deck a little bit as well as I go through. But at the moment, through testing, I've been about 50-50 overall with this deck, which is okay. If you get to go off pretty well consistently on curve, you can do really good matchups. Otherwise, it can be a little awkward, especially if you do get run over by mid-sword, which is very common at the moment. Mid-sword is going to be a huge problem in this meta, I feel, just because it's going to be very oppressive and very strong until we can find something that is a direct counter, which by the time this video comes out, I'm sure we'll probably have something at least. Overall, pretty happy with how the deck's performed so far, considering I did literally just throw things together for it for the most part, just planning around that kind of Prime Artifact synergy, while at the same time trying to keep a rush and draw engine in place without using Deus Ex Machina, Saphira, or Spinaria, or even Manga Legacy. I really just wanted to make this deck cheap, effective, and workable for pretty much anyone, so we'll get right into the video and check it out. Okay, the first matchup on our list is Blood. Blood is still quite strong. Both Vengeance and Aggro are doing very well for themselves at the moment, at least from what I've seen. I should have an a Vengeance Blood video coming out soon, if all goes planned, but we'll have to wait and see about that one. So, starting off with an Excel, Hamlin, and of course, really just our artifact generation isn't that good, not this way. Really need a 2-drop artifact generation to make this deck work. Luckily we did get it. Honestly, going second, the best card you can get is the new 2-drop silver, because it is a perfect setup card. You can easily play it. Its stats are a little weaker than average ones, but setting up a Prime Artifact and Radiant Artifact into your deck is extremely important in this deck. And of course we also have our Artifact Grabber next turn, which could be quite good. I mean, it's going to guarantee us either a Radiant or Prime, so one of two isn't bad. And we can deal a couple damage to the face, getting in that early damage, so we have less to do later. Of course, they go for the trade. That was going to be an obvious one. It looks like they're playing Blood Moon, so they're going for some form of Vengeance that doesn't require them to be in Vengeance, which doesn't surprise me too much. We did send another Prime Artifact into our deck, which means we're going to be guaranteed to draw a Prime Artifact, which is perfect because we already have our Excel, which means we can set up our Excel a turn earlier, play into our Prime Artifact, and be pretty much set. And as long as our turn 5 goes well, it should be very easy to snowball this game in our favour. Lethal Blade, though, does hit everyone, which is a little disappointing. It does mean that all of these are basically useless at this point. I mean, the 4/4 is going to be okay because we can use it for damage. Hamlin, yeah, practically useless. Probably should have just... yeah, I don't think there was anything I could have done for that, actually. So we're going to get another Prime Artifact. Really solid. And our opponent pretty much concedes instantly, realizing, hey, probably doesn't matter what they play. We have a solid hand. So while that last match was super quick, I did want to show off how good a curve can be with this deck when it goes well. Unfortunately, the opponent did concede early, which means I didn't really get to show off the kind of mid to late game synergies, but when you can swarm the early game like that, you can really compete with some of these more aggressive decks, which is really nice. So this hand is average, I would say. Getting a 1-drop is perfect, but going into Lion in substitution probably isn't the best line of play. I also seem to really favour going second with this one in particular. Double Excel is another really awkward synergy. I mean, it's good to have, but it just feels weird when you're trying to use it. So Golem Assault, not really impressive. They're really just trying to set up, which is basically what we're doing. Trying to get the Prime Artifact into my deck now while I've got the chance, just in case we do manage to get something to really pull it. And it looks like Guardian Golem is going to be the substitution target and easily removable, so we can deal some good damage here. And we got our Artifact Puller, which means we can guarantee our Prime Artifact into our hand. Magic Missile to my face is a good spot. It means they probably don't have something easy to remove, but they did happen to have Wind Blast, wasting a 6 6 damage Wind Blast on a 2-2 can't feel good. And now we can guarantee our prime draw and set up this little artifact to go along with it. All we have to do is make it to about turn 6, and usually you can then snowball from there when you do have prime artifact. So Magic Owl presenting itself as usual. That would be a nice substitution target again, but now we have to deal with a full board of Snowman. I am looking into a deck that runs Snowman like this, and it could be fairly interesting. But we should be able to at least remove everything here pretty effectively. It is going to cost us the Evo though, which is a little disappointing. If I had have thought about it a little more, I might have probably went with the Hamlin onto the Puppet, which would have gave me another one, and I could have avoided using an Evo at all, but this kind of felt okay anyway, and it did set me up some more artifacts, which is perfect. Especially when we draw one off the top. It's gonna go well for turn 6. Hamlin, duplicate artifacts and acceleration. You know, Acceleratium is gonna be great. Plus a 4-3 is a solid body. Another forced removal, Fiery Embrace. Good to see them used now, so they can't use them on my primes later. So I get the chance to use my Hamlin.
On a musical journey.
Not too concerned, although I would have preferred to have set up my Acceleratium into my prime. I think this is still reasonably okay. Mainly because Excel and Excel together are amazing cards and could work out nicely, but do decide to drop the prime artifact down when they have nothing on board anyway, because I know it's going to be a good play. It'll also absorb quite a large amount of damage from them.
The march goes on.
So Stream Player has been playing every spell possible. At least we don't have to worry about things like Daria anymore, so we really only are concerned with a Chimera play as their big drop. And when I say Chimera, I mean Giant Chimera, which is the pain in the ass one, honestly. So, double Analyzing Artifact should work out pretty nicely, removing this and allowing me to go 7 to face with an Evo. And have some pretty good potential. I did want to at least be able to use the 2-drop here. If I had have planned it out a bit better, I could have used it without using my 0 cost, which would have been better. But this did the job quite nicely and did open up a really nice line of play for me. So instead of evolving the Ancient Artifact, I can evolve the Radiant Artifact. Prime Artifact. I can evolve the Radiant, go for a massive amount of damage. Leaving them with just 5 health and a full board to deal with is going to be very difficult, even on a Chimera play. I mean, they need to deal 10 damage to remove this and then 19 to me to really have a substantial play, and that would have been very difficult. The next match and the final match for this video is against Dragon. Dragon can present itself extremely difficultly. PDK is a little easier to deal with than Ramp, obviously. Ramp can be a complete nightmare for this deck, at least from the few games I've played with it. But usually if you are coming up against PDK, the match can be in your favour quite well because you do run so many kind of removal and banishments that can hit PDK very, very hard and very, very quickly. So we have a pretty solid solid hand of cards that we can throw to our board very effectively. I mean, being able to play this on 2, I think is still the best play for this deck so far. Every time I've played this on 2, I've had a really good game. It's either been extremely close, or it's always been in my favour, which is great. So at this point, all we really need to be able to do is just continually swarm the board. Getting 2 Icarus I thought was the best idea, because that will give us a really nice turn 4 play, especially when we can use Evolves. So that will be nice, and then turn 5 Otherworld Rift should be solid against Dragon that's already ramped up. So double Icarus. Did use the Evolve on Icarus first because I didn't want to dilute our deck with Ancient Artifacts. I wanted my chance at a Prime or Radiant, which could have been nicer, but fortunately we still got the Ancient Artifact anyway. I mean, the odds were in favour of that to begin with, but honestly, pretty good. We get a large amount of damage to the Dragon early on, which is what you want with this deck. We already have a God Bullet Golem, so all we actually need is to get Prime on the board, and then we can stick at least 7 damage to their face very, very quickly. Sybil though is going to kind of be a nightmare. I mean, it does have to be removed immediately. Not that it's difficult, it's just a little bit of a pain. And we can now evolve our Icarus again, looking for even more value. Since we had 2 substitutions, using one I felt was fine, especially since we do get the puppet out of it. And then we can go for a nice 8 damage, putting him on 9. Very close to being dead, really, against this deck. But Prime Dragon Keeper is going to be one of those cards that's going to irritate my deck a little bit. I mean, it does deal with my boards very well, but at the same time, it dies very easily to this deck. So it's just one of those things where, yes, you will lose a whole board to Prime Dragon Keeper, but overall, you should have the advantage against it. Like that, they absorbed all that damage, which is nice. We only took a little bit. They did go for the Evolve, which means Substitution's no good to us, but that's where Otherworld Rift comes in and just absolutely decimates this. Of course, we get another H artifact. I was a little disappointed by that one. Really wanted to get a Prime artifact by now. Unfortunately, haven't been able to do it yet. And the second Prime is good to see. Dragon Keeper's going to die pretty easy to this substitution since they don't have any evolves left. Then all we need to do is deal with the couple of golds that they've played. And getting another Otherworld Rift is great for dealing with any big drops that might come down later. So at this point, I really just wanted to deal with these as effectively as I could while trying to get that Prime into my hand. Still not seeing it. While the H artifacts are good, I really want a Prime artifact so I can start going for lethal. And I also want to hold on to my H artifacts in case I need them to deal with something bigger than a 2-drop. And I also feel diluting the deck with Biofab could be really bad, so I really need to hold that until after. So the 2-1, not really any issue to me. We do get another chance. Knower of History is going to put another Prime in our deck, increasing our chance of drawing one. So the Evolve here is actually to our benefit. And if we do get Prime, we can actually play it immediately using Biofab, so it's not too shabby at all for this. Do decide to Biofab Prime twice. Really want to make sure that these Primes can stick as much as I can. I mean, they're going to be very hard to remove, so the more I can get on board, the better. And at this point, I only need 2 damage to the face, and the God Bullet will be lethal. Not so lucky though, Frenzied Drake kind of ruins that plan. Because it does need to be answered immediately. Can't afford to leave Frenzied Drake up this turn. But we do end up with another Prime and a meta production, which at least gives us the chance to draw more cards and set things up. Unfortunately, it does draw into another meta production, so not so good. And they do heal slightly, which does make my God Bullet Golem just that little bit further out of reach.
Dragon Strike Blade.
So another Dragon Strike Blade and Blazing Breath. This time, dealing with my 5/5 as effectively as they can. But it does absorb a lot of damage. A lot of people didn't think it'd be great because it spawns at the start of your turn, and while yes, that is the case, that it loses some value there, you can gain value out of the God Bullet Golems, you can gain value out of the fact that they have to be absorbed every single turn anyway, and that's always really good. So we do get to deal with this pretty well. I don't mind wasting the ancient artifacts on this if my God Bullet does get the 7 damage to the face. Of course, this does mean they got to deal with the God Bullet Golem now. Dragoon Scyther though, probably their most effective removal to date. Perfect for doing that. And Water of Orcas. Still a card I haven't messed around with yet, but expect to see that coming up soon as well. I really want to work a deck in with that. So I go for another Prime Artifact, this time searching for more cards as well. I mean, 2 Prime Artifacts is going to be really hard to remove, and with only 4 health, if you leave even one of these up now, you're pretty much dead. Although I wouldn't be surprised if they do an impressive job at removing these. And Frenzied Drake is a good way to go about it. Of course, it's not quite enough on its own, but that Blazing Breath they had in hand does make it quite good. Of course, these will come back. And perfect off the top, God Bullet Golem. Not like I was worried about the Frenzy Drake really, because otherwise I would have just played another Prime anyway, and I don't think they could have dealt with that turn or killed me, unless they had Lindworm, which maybe. But Godbullet Golem did it. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you are looking for a cheap deck that requires no legendaries and very minimal golds, only 5 for the entire deck, I do recommend giving this a shot. Once you learn to play it, it can be quite good. There will be a few adjustments made to this deck over the course of the next week or so. Of course, I don't make adjustments immediately, and I probably won't update them immediately, of course. I'll probably have another video off in about a week where I will do an update to this deck, just because it's hard to cover every single deck possible, so I can't do it all the time. If you want to know a couple of the adjustments I'm probably planning to make, I'll probably be adding the ward artifacts to the deck as just probably a 2 or 3 of for the 3 cost card, and maybe I'll probably drop Crystal Cannon to 1 and try and work in some other form of win condition, whether it is just 1 Saphira, to really close out games a little more effectively. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy with the deck, and I hope you guys are too. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below, and I will catch you guys next time. See ya.